Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us, so many of you out there. And this is our first live stream. So if there's any technical glitches, please forgive us. My name is Greg Witt, and I am the founder and Chief Adventure Officer of Alpenwild. I've been hiking in the Alps for 52 years. And in fact, this will be our 20th summer season in the Alps. And I head over there just in a couple of days. Joining us is one of our guides, Jen Stretton. And Jen, just give a quick intro.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm one of the guides of Alpenwild. I'm from the UK originally, as you can probably tell from my accent. But for the last 6 years, I've been living over here in the Alps, and every summer I take Alpenwild guests on some of the long distance hikes in France, Italy and Switzerland, and soon the UK.
Well, so the last 2 years have been, of course, challenging for the travel industry with so many restrictions. And in fact, we didn't even run any tours during 2020, and then had a little recovery starting back in 2021. But we didn't just sit around and wait for the phones to ring. We were busy thinking about what are we going to do next, and what's the next opportunity. And so last year, Jen contacted me and said, UK is a great hiking destination. Let's do some tours in the UK. And I said, yes, I'm all for it. That's wonderful. And she said, we'll plan these for 2023. And I said, no, we need to do them in 2022. And so we have these tours planned for 2022. Today, we're here to talk about those 2 tours in the UK. And one is called England Coast to Coast. It's a wonderful classic route that traverses England from the Irish Sea to the North Sea, from west to east. And in the process, traverses 3 national parks. So we'll talk about that a bit later. And the second is called Best of Britain. And Great Britain consists of the 3 countries on the island of what we know as England. This is for Americans, so I'm going to give a little explanation here. But Great Britain consists of England and Wales and Scotland. And on this tour, Best of Britain, we ascend the 3 highest peaks in each of those countries in England, and we'll talk about that a bit later too. So I would certainly invite your comments, and we have links below for these two hiking tours, and then we have a special offer at the end of this webinar. So please stay tuned, and we'll reveal this special offer. It's only available, it's an exclusive offer. It's only available to those who are joining us here on the live stream today. Well, as I mentioned, things have really, in the last 2 years, changed dramatically in the leisure travel industry. And people are traveling again, but they're traveling differently. They're avoiding the large, over-touristed cities and looking for more off the beaten path adventures. Well, that's wonderful for us, because that's what we have specialized in for 20 years, is off the beaten path travel. It's called the rural revolution. I'm seeing that term in the media right now. They're not traveling to the big cities as much. They're looking for unknown experiences. Jen, you're from Birmingham, one of the largest cities in Europe, and over 1 million people. Tell us about the kind of the opportunities that people will find in traveling in the UK and outdoor tours.
Yeah, so I always think it's a real shame. Often when I speak to guests and I say, oh, have you been to the UK? Then, people have been to London and maybe they've been to Manchester or the big cities. But I think a lot of people just don't really understand that the UK is one of the top hiking destinations in Europe. And I didn't really know that until, I went to university and joined a hiking group, and I went to the mountains for the first time on my 19th birthday. And I remember getting to Snowdonia in Wales, and I was blown away. I just honestly couldn't believe that this sort of scenery existed in the UK. I'd seen mountains in magazines, but I'd never been to the mountains. We have huge lakes and big peaks, and I think it's just really not a destination many people think of when it comes to hiking, but Wales and the Lake District and Scotland, we've just got some really amazing hikes, and I just really hope and I look forward to showing people a different side to the UK that they won't get if they just come into London for a few days and then fly off somewhere else.
Well, I think most Americans go to the UK and they spend most of their time in London, and they never really get beyond the kind of the environs of London or the southwest England, and they may take a day tour to Salisbury or Stonehenge, but there's so much to see and so beautiful and such rich, wonderful landscapes and great hiking destinations in northern England, of course, Scotland and Wales too. It's not touristy. It's not, the trails aren't crowded. It's a very peaceful, relaxing setting. So our guests are very familiar with the Alps, and they've been on all these alpine trails and the great treks in the Alps. They've been on the Tour de Mont Blanc and the Chamonix-Zermatt haute route. They're used to seeing 14,000 foot peaks and glaciers. What are they going to see differently in the landscape in the UK?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And, since living in the Alps, everyone always jokes to me, oh, you don't have mountains in the UK, you just have little hills. But the difference is here, in the Alps, you can't get to the top of mountains unless you've got an ice axe and crampons, and it takes you a few days. But in the UK, our mountains might only be, between 3,000 and 4,000 feet, but you're starting from sea level. So, they look like mountains, they feel like mountains, and you can get on top of the mountains. You can summit a peak every day and look down over the landscape. So whereas in the Alps, we spend our whole time looking up at the mountains. In the UK, you can get to the top of them, and there's just such a feeling of vastness, and you can look for miles in every direction, and all you can see is mountains and lakes and forests. So it's a very different feel to hiking in the UK, but it's equally spectacular.
And the British are passionate about their mountains too. They have whole clubs that are called fell walkers, and people that hike Munro's, the highest peak in the highest peaks. Just like people in Colorado are passionate about their 14ers. You'll certainly find that. Another thing you'll find in the UK is just an immense amount of charm. Wonderful villages and beautiful, peaceful, enjoyable landscapes. Picture here of the stone walls and old stone cottages in Yorkshire. And we're traveling on our England coast to coast, traveling through Yorkshire, which I had visited York before, but never really got out into the rural landscapes of Yorkshire. And I was smitten. I was stopping at real estate offices and finding, how can I buy one of those little stone cottages in Yorkshire and retire there with a few head of sheep? That would be my dream. So you'll find so much of that, just charming little villages and just some beautiful, quiet trails. That's something very different from hiking in the Alps to hiking in rural England. Jen, you mentioned as you were hiking there just a few weeks ago, you'd hike, for hours and never see anybody.
Yeah, it's lovely actually. I had the chance to go and hike the full coast to coast route, staying in all the hotels that we'll be staying in just a couple of weeks ago with my family, my mom and dad and sister. And there was a few days, and especially in the Yorkshire Dales, we just saw, maybe one or two people, and we were almost excited to see someone, to find out where they were going. And you just feel a real sense of solitude and vastness and space and peace and quiet. And Of course, there's the hot spots where you get people, like on the summit day of Snowdon, you'll see quite a lot of people, but you can easily avoid those and get away from everyone. It's just lovely.
It is, and I should also mention, and Jen, you'll concur with this, that the trails in the UK are not well marked. I mean, they're normally single track trails, and so that's why this really needs to be done as a guided tour, and that's why Jen will be with you to kind of guide you through those unmarked trails. About the mountain peaks on our Best of Britain tour. So we ascend each of the 3 highest peaks in Scotland, England, and Wales. And the highest peak in Wales is Snowdon, and Snowdon only has an elevation of 3,500, little over 3,500 feet. I'm broadcasting right now from our office in Utah, and our elevation right here is 6,000 feet. So we kind of consider that the depths of the valley, but 3,500 feet. But and then we ascend the highest peak in England, and that's Scafell Pike, which only has an elevation of 3,200 feet. And then the highest peak in Great Britain, in Scotland, is Ben Nevis. And I remember ascending Ben Nevis several years ago. It's 4,400 feet. But on all of these peaks, you're starting at near sea level. And so you have a full day ascent getting up to the top. And Jen, these peaks are not to be underestimated. Is that right?
No, not at all. And I mean, it's lovely, actually. I love those mountains. They all have incredible views from the top, and it feels like a proper mountain day, to go up to the top of a summit and down. You feel a real sense of achievement. And they are big days, but, we have the whole day to do it. On our trips, we always take our time and enjoy the view. So it's a real challenge. So it's not something to be underestimated, but it's also not something to be afraid of. And I think for any fit hiker, it's more than achievable to do all of these.
And Jen, as you mentioned, just some spectacular views. I mean, I'm seeing views out to the Irish Sea there. This is from the top of Ben Nevis and other surrounding peaks and lakes. It's a beautiful, beautiful setting. So
it is stunning. And I've just seen a question actually come in, Greg, on the comments asking how many hours are we on the trail each day? I'd say, we're out between 5 and 8 hours. If the weather's really good, then we spend longer because we take our time for lunch. So we have, good full days, but we get back to the hotel, usually by around 4 p.m. in time to have a rest before dinner and enjoy the small villages that we're staying in. So every day is slightly different, but I'd say probably between around 6 to 8 hours on the trail each day.
Okay, good. One thing I so enjoy, I love history. I love European history, and I love pointing out on our tours the sites that we visit in the Alps, the historical significance. But the range of historical sites in the UK is phenomenal. You have prehistoric sites, and of course, people know about Stonehenge, but also many other stone circles and prehistoric sites in England and in Scotland. You have Roman ruins. Of course, Hadrian's Wall runs across England, just kind of north of where we're hiking. And so you have Roman sites, you have medieval castles. This is Whitby Abbey, which is kind of at the end of the England Coast to Coast tour. You have wonderful 12th century churches and castles, and then 17th, 18th, and 19th century homes and towns and villages that we pass along the way. In fact, many of the hotels we stay in date from 200-300 years ago. Wonderful history on all these places. I'll mention in the Lake District, which is a national park on the kind of the west side of England. That was a home, kind of a retreat for poets, and Wordsworth and Coleridge were poets. There are authors like James Herriot, modern authors, but also I'll mention Beatrix Potter, who wrote the Peter Rabbit stories. She made lots of money off those stories around the turn of the last century, and then she bought vast tracts of land in the Lake District. And on her death in the 1940s, she bequeathed that land to the National Trust. And that was really the basis for the creation of the Lake District National Park. She wanted to preserve that rural character, rural culture of this beautiful, beautiful area, and these rural landscapes, not have them developed and into tourist sites. And so we have Peter Rabbit to thank for the beauty and the natural wonders that we see in the Lake District. So, in addition to historical sites, there's some wonderful and wildlife sighting. Here's a roe deer. This is your photo, Jen, from just a few weeks ago. Roe deer. I saw fox, and of course lots of farm animals. But what else do we have? That was your picture too, Jen. That's a great blue heron. I never thought about the birding opportunities in England. Certainly, you don't see any birds, any wonderful birds in the urban centers, but we saw this lapwing, which is it's really a rare bird, uncommon in England. But if you're going to see it, you're going to see it in the north, in the more rural areas. And here's a pheasant that we saw in the Yorkshire Dales. And Jen, you had a particular sighting too.
Yeah, I was so happy. I'd never seen a curlew before. And again, they're one of those birds that you just don't see very often in the UK, the same with lapwings. And I used to work on a conservation reserve in Yorkshire, and everyone would get really excited when you saw these. And we just saw so many lapwings and curlew when we were going through the North York moors. It was quite a special time of year because it was breeding season. And I think living in the Alps now makes me realise how many birds we do have in the UK, because you've got this special mix of habitats with forests and heathland and valleys and mountains. So you've got all these habitats like a patchwork, and so you get a huge diversity of birds. And I was really happy to see a curlew.
Yes, all my years hiking in the Alps, occasionally I'll hear a cuckoo bird, or I'll see hawks overhead, but really very, very few, and not much variety of birds in the Alps. And I saw more birds 1 week hiking in northern England than I've seen all my years in the Alps. So it's a treat. We talk about our travel and tours there. There's a wonderful hospitality that I sensed traveling in the north of England. And Jen, from your perspective, there's something special, I think, about Yorkshire.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of rivalry between the north and the south of the UK, and I'm right in the middle. So I'd like to think I'm an objective judge. And for sure, the further north you go, everyone agrees, everyone gets friendlier. And Yorkshire particularly, and Yorkshire's the place where we're going to pass through on the coast to coast. So we also visit on the Best of Britain tour, but on the coast to coast tour, we go from the west to the east of Yorkshire, which is the biggest county in the UK. And the people are just so lovely. They've got a brilliant sense of humour, really down to earth, really welcoming. And I just felt like every hotel that I went to was like being welcomed in someone's house. It also feels like a house, because often they are old manor houses with comfortable lounges, lovely food, really warm people. And I mean, I'm biased because I'm from the UK, but I think that the hospitality is just really top class there.
Yeah, we've frankly, Americans have I think a wonderful bond with Brits, and we share a mother tongue, and maybe it's because we share the same language that we're so at home traveling in Great Britain. Now let's talk about the hotels. We stay in some wonderful hotels. In fact, this is a picture of one of the hotels we stay in, and that's in the Lake District. But I spent a month, well, 2 weeks over there just a couple months ago, inspecting each of our hotels and kind of even going from room to room and inspecting the rooms. And when we choose hotels, let me give you some background, some little travel industry and insiders knowledge. But one of the things about doing small group tours is that we can stay in some hotels that large groups would never stay in. So large groups are looking for big hotels where they can pull their motor coach up front and disgorge their 50 or so passengers. We're traveling with groups of 8 to 10 people. And so we can stay in some very small hotels with maybe just 10 or 12 rooms and some, they have just wonderful charm and personality. We're usually working with an owner, a hands-on owner who is there. They just bend over backwards for us. So we have some wonderful hotel experiences. That's one of the advantages of a small group tour. And most are independently owned, and they're often family owned. Lots of tradition. Most of these hotels are, many of the hotels we stay at in Great Britain are, they're former country homes, manor homes, and they've been adapted and remodeled to the hotel. So no two rooms are the same. Now, be prepared. Not all of these hotels, very few of them, have an elevator. So we'll get your luggage up to the top floors.
Yeah, so don't pack too heavy.
They are gorgeous. Jim, what were some of your favorite memories of hotels and where we stayed in
so many. Like this hotel in the Lakes is really special. You come down off the walk and you get there and it's just in the middle of the mountains with a gorgeous lake outside. And when me and my family arrived, it was really sunny and we sat out on the front deck there. And, the lovely guy who was working there came out and brought us drinks and the sun was shining down. And we felt like we owned the house, we felt like this was our home and we were on the front garden enjoying it. But another hotel I really like is the Royal Oak Hotel. Which is in Battersea Coed in Snowdonia. And that hotel is right in the middle of the village. And I think what I really like about the two tours is we have a mix, some hotels are right in the middle of a village. So you can go out and, enjoy the cafes and shops. And other hotels like this one are very secluded and in nature. And I always really love, every hotel has a really nice lounge area as well. And that's lovely, after dinner or before dinner, you can sit in front of the fire and have a nice drink and swap stories from the day. It's just very cozy and homely.
And Jen, I've went to all of these hotels, and they compare. Well, they're certainly as good as every hotel we use in the Alps, if not better. And they, I think our guests who have traveled with us in the Alps are going to come to these hotels and they'll be overwhelmed. They'll be I'm delighted, I'm sure. This is the dining room of one of the hotels we stay at. In fact, the first night of the tour on our England coast to coast trip. Let's talk about the food. Food and wonderful cuisine is always the hallmark of an Alpenwild tour, and at the hotels we stay, we're often dining at the hotel. And it's a la carte dining. In other words, you're not just eating a set menu. You'll have menu choices throughout the tour, and there's some wonderful local specialties that are they talk about their local traditions and traditional food, and you'll be able to sample that. This is breakfast, and In the Alps, breakfast is usually buffet, and it's always a wonderful spread for breakfast. But in England, it's a sit-down meal where you order your breakfast, and this is the full English breakfast. It's also the full Wales breakfast, and it's also the full Yorkshire breakfast. Every hotel has their breakfast, and it's sausage and eggs and tomatoes and ham and beans, and then you get the porridge and pastries. So breakfast, we actually found that breakfast is more time consuming so we have to kind of plan for more time
Yeah.
just to eat the full English breakfast. But you'll be well nourished for the start of the tour. And yes, they do actually have beans in the morning. So
that's the best bit.
You go outside and hit the trail. So and then we have wonderful trail snacks, and then dinner at the hotels is also a real treat. And this is the sticky toffee pudding, which I think every hotel and every restaurant in England serves sticky toffee pudding, and that's something you have to try. But then one of my favorite experiences, and Jen, I'll have you share yours. But we stayed at a wonderful pub hotel in the Yorkshire Dales called the Plough, and we happened to arrive there on a Sunday afternoon, and so we had the Sunday roast. And what you see here, this is a Yorkshire pudding on top of the dinner plate, and that Yorkshire pudding is about the size of my head. Okay, so I didn't even know if I could eat it, but that was a fun experience. Jen, do you have any favorite highlights of things that culinary experience that people shouldn't miss?
Yeah, so before I go into that, I just wanted to quickly say hi, Nelson. I see that you're watching. Hopefully, I'll see you in the Alps this summer. In terms of the vegetarians do fine on the UK trips. All of me and all my family are vegetarian, and my mum's also gluten-free. And it's so easy in England to be vegetarian. It's just a dream compared to France and Switzerland. And every hotel was really flexible, and we even managed to have a vegetarian Sunday roast, so we never felt like we were missing out on anything. They always went above and beyond, and all of the supermarkets, it's really easy to get vegetarian things for people with allergies or dietary requirements. But what you see on screen now is my favourite thing about the UK, which is cream tea. So it's a scone with jam and clotted cream. And if you've never had clotted cream before, you really don't know what real cream is like. It's really thick and delicious. And normally when you have a cream tea, you can have little sandwiches and little cakes. So you won't go hungry on the UK trips, that's for sure.
And Jen, you told me that there's kind of a debate among the English. Do you put the clotted cream on first and then the raspberry jam, or the raspberry jam and then the clotted cream?
Well, people pretend there's a debate, but it's definitely the jam first and then the clotted cream. I think there's between Cornwall and Devon in the south of England, they've got different ideas, but anyone who knows what they're talking about knows it's definitely the jam first and then the clotted cream on top.
So between the pubs and the tea rooms and the dinners and the English breakfast, you're going to have a wonderful exposure to English cuisine and British cuisine throughout the tour. Let's talk a bit about the weather. Jen, in one of your emails, you referred to you said today that the weather is rather Scottish. What is Scottish weather, and how do you prepare for Scottish weather?
Yeah, so that's not Scottish weather there. That's a lovely sunny day. So Scottish weather is rain and wind and just, the sort of weather you'd rather be at home in your duvet. And, there's no getting away from it that the UK does have mixed weather. In the Alps, it's very stable here. You could have a week with no rain. But in the UK, we're an island, we're off the sea, you get weather systems move through. So it does mean our weather's variable, but it also means that the weather's changeable. So, for example, on our 10-day coast to coast with my family, we had one very rainy day. We had 2 days with passing showers and sunshine. we had one windy day, and then we had 5 gorgeous sunny days. And we've chosen May and September for our UK tours, firstly because it's low season, so the trails are much quieter. And also they tend to be the driest months in the UK. So, the trail's nice and quiet, and it's fairly dry. And of course, every day is different. So I always can have 4 seasons in a day. So in my bag, I have, my sunglasses, my cap, but also a pair of gloves and a waterproof. So you just have to go prepared, and the weather usually passes through fairly quickly, and we've got good weather forecasts. But the key really is to just be prepared for everything, and then you'll enjoy yourself.
The photo here is the heather, which is in bloom in September. So we're there in September, and you'll see just beautiful fields of heather, particularly in the Yorkshire and North York moors. In fact, this particular photo is taken on the last day of the England coast to coast, and it's overlooking what's called Robin's Hood Bay, which is where the England coast to coast ends. But beautiful fields of heather. And also September tends to be drier than some of the other summer months. In the Alps, we tell our guests to bring your rain gear and expect at least one day a week of rain. And if they don't get that, they'll be pleasantly surprised. But and also, I think in the Alps, the weather is very predictable. There are major storm systems that come from the east to the west to the north. But as you indicated, Jen, the weather is a little more unpredictable, a little more variable in Britain.
It is, and the upside of that, honestly, and I'm going to sound like I'm being optimistic here, but one thing I realised last time I was in the UK was the clouds are so beautiful when they're passing over, and the light is changing a lot through the day. So that's really the treat as well of having this variable weather coming through. You get different light, and you really feel rewarded when you're hiking in the UK, because you're I don't know, it just has more wild feeling, I think, than over here in the Alps.
And a question here. For 2022 and 2023, we're offering these tours in May and September, which is during the school year, and it may be difficult for some to get away. So I would suggest you retire. So if you're a school teacher, I suggest you retire early and go in September. No. Who knows? We may be offering these tours in the future during the summer. We have so much fun in the Alps during the summer. We haven't yet planned. We haven't yet planned a summer departure for these tours, but we may. So stay tuned. And Jen, in the Alps we have a range of tours, easy day hikes, and we have scenic rail tours. These tours in the UK, even though there's kind of low elevations, who would you suggest? Who are these tours best suited for? What type of hiker or traveler would most enjoy these tours?
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? Because we always try and match guests with the tour that's right for them. I definitely say this isn't a tour for beginners. So I'd say, you want to have been out, multi-day hiking, or if not multi-day hiking, doing a hike one day and a hike the next day, and be comfortable to know that you can sustain multiple days of walking. You have to be someone who's not afraid, of walking in the rain some days or the wind some days, and also, someone who is used to walking on rockier trails, because as Greg said earlier on, the trails in the UK, they're not huge, well-groomed trails. We're not scrambling or climbing by any means, but some of the trails are rockier, so you want to be someone who's sure-footed. You're a hiker, you like to be out in the mountains, you enjoy the challenge, you're fit. You don't have to be an athlete, but just the general fit, motivated hiker will love this trip. If you've never been on a hiking trip before, then maybe it's not for you. But one advantage with both of these trips is we're going to have our own driver. So if there's some days where you're feeling particularly tired, we have flexibility, you can get to the next hotel. But to enjoy it to the max, I'd say, be someone who hikes regularly and has done back-to-back hiking days before.
And good point. You mentioned, as with all of our tours in the Alps, we shuttle your luggage, so you're not carrying a heavy backpack. You're carrying a light day pack, and able to travel freely, and knowing that your luggage is waiting for you at the hotel at the end of the day. So the other question we had is let's distinguish between these two tours, the England Coast to Coast and Best of Britain. And I'll point out that our office staff here in the U.S., they're really familiar with all of our tours, and we always say that the most important thing they do is to match the guest with the right tour. And we want you to have a wonderful experience. And we designed these tours for returning guests. So those that have hiked with us in the Alps, I think will come on these tours and find a very similar type experience in terms of the difficulty and the challenge. And of course, on our website, we list the distance and the elevation gain for each day. So Jen, let's compare the tours. England Coast to Coast, some of the features are, it's for those who like the idea of a journey, a place to place to place, and you're staying in a different place every night. Any other characteristics or features of the England Coast to Coast that you think our listeners viewers should be aware of?
Yeah, I think the really special thing about the coast to coast is the variety of habitats that we pass through. So, we start off on the coast and we walk through meadows and a lot of farmland and small villages. We're in the high mountains in the Lake District, then in the Yorkshire Dales, we're in the more rolling landscapes. And then, we go over to the North York Moors and you've got the heather. And then, the coastal walking, beautiful forests, some of the most incredible bird song I've heard actually on the last day of the coast to coast. So I think with the Best of Britain, every day is a big mountain day. But on the coast to coast walk, you've just got a bit more variety. That little stone house you saw, I don't know if you can read that, but it says 1790. And we walked past that on the last day of the coast to coast, and monks used to go there and meditate. And we just walked past it in the forest. There's no signpost or anything. So this goes back to, Greg, what you're saying about history. That's just carved out of sandstone there in the forest. So yeah, that really sets the coast to coast apart, the variety of habitat. And I think also the history. We see a lot more historic sites on the coast to coast. And of course, we finish in York and we get to go to the cathedral as well. So I think the habitat and the history sets the coast to coast apart from the Best of Britain. The Best of Britain, I think, Greg, do you want to talk about the Best of Britain quickly?
Yes, Best of Britain, we stay multiple nights in Wales, England, and Scotland. And it's ideally designed for peak baggers. I would love the Best of Britain because I love conquering new peaks. I've climbed Ben Nevis, I've climbed Snowdon, but I've not climbed Scaffold's Pike. So maybe you can introduce me to that. What else about Best of Britain, Jen?
I think the fact that you go to the three countries, you start off you land in Manchester in England, we go straight to Wales, then back to the Lake District in England, then up to the Scottish Highlands. So, if you're someone that is really interested to find out about the differences between those, because they are three countries. The UK is a bit confusing, but the people in Wales, they speak Welsh, they have their own language in Snowdonia, the part where we go to. And it's a very different culture to England, and it's very different to Scotland. And if you say to someone from Scotland or Wales that they're English, they're not very happy at all. They really are very distinct countries. So if that appeals to you, then Best of Britain would be the good tour to go for.
Well, both wonderful tours, both delightful hotels, and I think our returning guests from the Alps would just really feel at home and thoroughly enjoy either of these two tours. Now, I promised at the start of this live stream that we would have a special offer, and we don't do price promotions. In fact, we've never really done one before. But for these two tours, we are offering a $100 off per person, exclusive offer to those who are joining us today on this live stream. And this offer is valid for 2022 and 2023 departures, and it's valid in addition to, on top of, any other returning guest offer. We offer a discount to our returning guests, and because we love them so much, we want to have them join us on another tour. So this offer is in addition to that for those of you that are returning Alpenwild guests. You'll have to have a special code that you enter. You can call it in and talk with one of our destination specialists. But if you're booking online, which you can easily do, the code is, shall I say it? It's Snowdon, SNOWDON. Oh, there it is on the screen. So that's the highest peak in Wales. That's where the British Everest expedition trained in 1951 and 2052, because the conditions, the snowy and unexpected weather on Snowdon, they thought would replicate what they'd find on Mount Everest. So, in fact, I was there the year after Sir Edmund Hillary died and met other surviving members of the British. Well, that's a whole other story. So we'll say that way. So
there's a story about that, Greg. Apparently, when Tenzing Norgay came over to Wales and he looked at Snowdon, someone asked him, "How long do you think to summit Snowdon?" And he said, "Oh, 3 days." Because it really does look like a big mountain, but of course you do it in a day.
Yeah, that's right. So this offer, by the way, this offer ends next Monday, June 6th. So go online, enter in that code, or call one of our destination specialists. Book now and receive that offer. Well, Jen, that about wraps it up for our live stream today. Thank you so much for joining us, and both Jen from Chamonix and thanks to Missy for our technical assistance and forwarding these questions. If we didn't get to your question, please call us and we'll want to get back to you and make sure you get an answer. But hope to see you in the Alps or in England this summer. A lot to look forward to and some exciting new things to see and do. So until then, look forward to a wonderful summer. Take care. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.